Hello there. Welcome back to Tales from Tosche Station. Hope you guys doing all right. Been a minute. So, what are we gonna talk about today? Well, I'll tell you. I'm gonna do my own tier list. I'm gonna do my own tier list of all the live action Star Wars movies, and guaranteed to ruffle some feathers. And if you guys notice, I'm missing somebody back there. My Vader Goblet's not back there. Why? Because he's right here. He's got all the movies in him. So, without further ado, hey Chewie, do me a favor. Punch this thing. Let's ruffle some feathers. All right, guys. So here we go. What I'm gonna do is I've got all the movies, like I said. This guy right here. So what I'm gonna do is, of course, I'm gonna draw one out of the goblet, and talk to you guys about it. Give you my thoughts, and tell you where I'm gonna rank them. So, well, let's get into this thing, shall we? First. Of course, this one would be first. Okay, well, we're starting this out with a bang. Rise of Skywalker. The retroactive retcon to The Last Jedi. What are my thoughts on this movie? Well, recently, my thoughts on this movie have changed thanks to Grayson from Mortis FM. Recently, I had him on for a sequel discussion. We talked about the sequels, and he changed my mind on a lot of things. Mostly Rey's decision to become a Skywalker. For the longest time, I thought that her becoming a Skywalker and her being the last Jedi was a slap in the face to Anakin and Luke and all of what they've done. And now I don't think that's the case. He really did change my mind, and I went back and rewatched Rise of Skywalker recently, and yes, it is a little clunky just because there are things that um that don't work in that film, like all of Leia's scenes. They're out of place, and it's kind of like the characters are talking to a NPC. It's it doesn't really work in my opinion. I would I would have done something totally different, which that's probably going to be a video in and of itself. What I would have done differently for Rise of Skywalker. Um, but I would say the things I enjoyed in that film was bringing back Palpatine. The fact that the Force created a dyad between Ben and Rey. That's why they're connected. That's part of the reason they're so powerful. And that's really just that's really the only stuff that I really liked in the movie. Well, outside of the fight on the lightsaber fight on the Death Star was actually pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. But I would say I'm gonna give this movie. I'm gonna say bottom of B tier, just because it could have been executed a lot better. Um, Disney should not have, in my opinion, retconned so much of The Last Jedi. Just kind of go with what The Last Jedi started and made. made the best of a bad situation. So I would say for this one, bottom of B tier. So let's go on to the next one. Just grab one. Oh man, I promise I didn't do this on purpose, guys. Next one is Last Jedi. Okay. Um. Yeah, I didn't. I This was not planned. I'm serious. Um. I didn't shuffle these well enough. So yeah, probably can't see it, but there it is. Last Jedi with my sloppy handwriting. So it's my least favorite movie. My least favorite Star Wars movie. I don't like it. I can say I've watched it a grand total of like 3 or 4 times. I don't like it. I don't like the deconstruction of Luke Skywalker as a character. I don't like the entire Canto Bight scene. What they do with Finn in that movie. What they do with fans' expectations in that movie. Um, the whole not telling Poe the plan situation, because if that doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, if the purple haired I don't even remember her name, uh Holdo, is that her name? Someone tell me in the comments because I think it's Holdo. But anyways, if she would have just told Poe the plan from the jump, the Canto Bite situation doesn't happen. Um, I did like the stuff with Ray and Ben. I really genuinely like that stuff. Um, I'm a little iffy on Luke's sacrifice. I don't think they should have killed him, just given the situation with Carrie Fisher. But I just, yeah, I don't like it. Um, I'm just gonna say bottom of F tier. It's literally, or bottom of D tier. I'm not. I just, yeah. The less I say about that movie, the better. So it's the lowest tier that I can put it in. Bottom of D. I don't. I just don't like it. It's not my Star Wars. I don't like that movie. So let's keep going. Actually, drop- yes, finally. Okay, now Return of the Jedi. First of the original trilogy. I'm gonna do. It's in my top. It's in my top three. Um, I just it's you get the band back together. Jabba's palace at the start. The whole build up to fighting and redeeming Darth Vader. Space Leg Mug. Um, Overall, Return of the Jedi. I just love it. I love the redemptive story that we get from Vader throughout the film. The introduction of the Empire, or the introduction of the Emperor, as we actually get to see him for the first time. Because I remember watching that movie as a kid, and the first time we see the Emperor, because this whole time we're thinking that Vader is the big bad. He's the biggest bad, and then we realize that he actually reports to someone who's even worse than he is. And Palpatine Sidious is the incarnation of space Satan. Like he is the one of the worst most devious evil characters that I've ever seen in film. Period. And just the redemptive. I mean, I've said this ad nauseum on different on different shows on my podcast on here. The redemptive story of Vader is what I watch this series for. I I love his I love his redemption story, and we see that in full in this movie. Specifically in the bridge scene. The bridge scene, there is a moment I think where Vader considered going with Luke. When Luke says, "Come with me," I think there's a very quick moment in Vader where he thinks about leaving, where he says, "It is too late for me, son." That is where I think we see the first bits of light coming back into Anakin. And even throughout the fight with Luke, I've said this before. During that fight, Luke is telling him over and over and over again, "I'm not going to fight you. I will not fight you. I'm not doing it." And I noticed something last time I watched Return. Vader doesn't want to do it either. He's not. His heart's not in it. He's not going after him like he did on Hoth. He's taking it easy on him. He doesn't want to kill him. He's just showing out because his boss is looking at it. His boss is watching him. It's the only reason he's doing it. And then we get Jedi's Fury, where Luke turns to the dark side for a split second, takes Vader down, and then we get that scene. "You failed, Your Highness. I'll never turn to the dark side." Throws his weapon away. Emperor attacks him, and then, well, you guys know what happens. Palpatine gets thrown down an energy shaft. He gets killed. Empire is destroyed until 30 years down the line until he comes back. But I would say Return is, to me, that's S tier Star Wars. I would say it's middle of S tier. It's in the middle S tier. So Return of the Jedi, one of my top 3 favorite films. Ooh, yay! My favorite film. Empire. Empire Strikes Back. What can I say about this film without going on a 20-minute tangent? I mean, it's the best Star Wars film, in my opinion. In a lot of fans' opinions, it's the best one. Um, the way that they use Luke's character that we saw in the first film and turn it on its head and actually turn that into a weakness in this film is I love watching it every single time. Vader uses Luke's compassion and his love for his friends against him in this film. And Luke, being, well, Anakin's son, runs off half cocked to Hoth, or half cocked to Cloud City, and gets his butt kicked. I watched that one recently as well. And I mean, when Luke comes up into the carbonite chamber, you feel a sense of just it heaviness when that fight's about to start. You can feel it in the air. And not a lot of other duels in Star Wars has that. Not a lot of other fights in Star Wars have that. And then just the fact that I was really watching the fight this last time to really analyze it. And the whole time, Vader's playing with him. He's just messing around. He's not really taking it seriously. He's fighting him with one hand for 90% of the fight. And the one hit that Luke gets on Vader pisses Vader off, and he loses a hand for it. And then he keeps backing up, backing up, backing up, backing up till he's got nowhere else to go. And then that's when we get the I've said this before, the most famous line in cinema. One of the most famous scenes in cinema. The one thing that blew 5-year-old Jacob's mind. Luke, I am your father. If there's a moment in time I'd like to go back to, it's that in theaters. First time, watch it with the audience and hear a pin drop. My dad's told me that story a million times. You could hear a pin drop in that theater when he saw it, and he couldn't believe it. I mean, and there's a documentary where James Earl Jones even says that that's a lie. There's no way that's possible. They've got to be lying. So Empire is to me the top of S tier, the tippity top of S tier, very top. And from the deconstruction of Luke's compassion to use it as a weapon against him, to his training with Yoda, the rebels' defeat on Hoth. I mean, that film from top to bottom is just beautiful. So on to the next one. I promise I'm not doing this on purpose, guys, but I'm getting the original trilogy out of the way, apparently. So New Hope. First Star Wars film. First one. Um I mean, it's it's a classic medieval story set in space. It's a high fantasy adventure set in space. Rescue the princess from the Dark Tower. Fight fight the evil wizard. It's just I mean it's I don't know what to say. I don't know what to explain other than it's my third favorite Star Wars film. I would say this is how this tier list is going to go. At least the top of it. Now that I've got all of them out of the way, first one is going to be Return. Second one, no, first one's going to be Empire. Second one's going to be Return. Third's going to be New Hope. So, uh, yeah, just from the trench run to how George slowly builds the lore. Luke learning about the Force from Obi-Wan for the first time. The reveal of Obi-Wan when he saves him from the Tuscans. When we first see Vader on the Tantive 4. Just I mean everything. I I love New Hope. It's one of my favorite films. I've said that. It's my third favorite film. Um, almost at the bottom of S tier. Got a few more films I'm probably gonna put in S tier, so just bear with me. Okay, so if you're doing the math at home, that means I've got a few more, just a few more left. So let's see which one I get next. Hopefully, it's not a prequel or a sequel, or yeah, we'll see. We'll see which one I get next. So, mm, here we go. All right, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. The second prequel. I'll say middle of B tier. Middle of B tier for Attack of the Clones because it starts to set up. It sets up the Clone Wars, and then and we get to see Anakin's beginnings of him falling to the dark side and his love for Padme. Um, Overall, I think Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones is a good Star Wars movie. It's the worst of the prequels, um, in my opinion, but it's still better than some of the stuff that Disney's put out with it. My favorite parts of that movie is like the last 30 minutes of that film is just breakneck pace. Um, the uh, the Jedi and clones rescue Padme, Obi-Wan, and uh, Anakin, and then it's just they just go. The fight with Count Dooku is pretty good. We get to see what kind of a fighter Anakin is, and I mean, he's a great swordsman, but Dooku is just that much better because Dooku's a master swordsman. So I would say solid middle of B tier for Attack of the Clones. Other than that, it's a solid film. So let's go on to the next one. Phantom Menace. Looks like I'm doing these in order. Okay, then here we go. Um, Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace. It was my first experience in the theaters for a Star Wars film. My parents didn't take me to go see the re-releases of the original trilogies uh, in theaters. I was just too young. That's why we got that guy right there. It's the original box set of these special editions that I watched as a kid. And this movie, I remember seeing it in theaters. I know we did, but I don't remember watching it in theaters. I know I saw it in theaters. I just don't remember watching it in theaters. Um, I mean, we get introduced to Anakin. We get introduced to the Republic in its heyday at the time, which I thought was amazing. And even from the beginning of that film, we see that Palpatine is pulling every single string that that even as the Republic is at the height of its power, his plan is still all the way completely in motion. We are introduced to Darth Maul and Qui Gon Jinn, two characters that would go on to define Star Wars for entire fan base, um, including myself. Uh, du- Duel of Fates, in my opinion, is a top two. Um, duel in Star Wars. I mean, it's literally that fight determines how Anakin's life plays out, and if Qui Gon doesn't die there, it's a completely different ball game. But overall, I would say uh, Phantom Menace is probably middle middle A tier for me. So let's keep going. Solo. All right, next one, Solo. This is one that I kind of forget happened. Going off my last point with Darth Maul, that stinger at the end where we see that Darth Maul is now the uh, boss of Crimson Dawn, which went nowhere. I've only seen Solo like probably two times. Um, it's like I said, it's one of those Star Wars movies that I just kind of forget happened. Um, I need to go back and watch it, but I would say I would say I would say see I would say bottom C tier, just because I don't really have that much of an opinion on it. I've only seen it like two or three times. Um, the thing that I remember the most is that Lando's droid is the reason that they were able to make the Kessel Run, um, and the reason that it's got as a such a peculiar dialect as C-3PO says it in Empire. But overall, I don't really have a opinion on this movie. I've only seen it a couple times, so middle C, middle C tier for me. Hmm. All right, Force Awakens. I love this movie. This is the only sequel movie that I truly enjoy watching. Um, they Disney played it very safe with this film. It's almost an exact clone of A New Hope, with just a few things moved around. But yeah, this is the only sequel film that I truly enjoy watching because it feels like Star Wars. It feels respected, and then from there, everything just kind of goes off a cliff. So, um, yeah, I would say middle A tier for me. Maybe no, I would say yeah, I would say about middle A tier for me, just because the law of diminishing returns. I really enjoyed the movie. I really enjoy what JJ does to set up the future of it with the sequels, and then unfortunately, it's a casualty of just what happens with these films. I mean, I love the character. I love the character of Ray and Finn, and Kylo. I just middle A is what I'm gonna say, just because it's a good film. It does good things. The fight in the snow is a very good fight, and seeing Ray's maturation in the Force throughout the film, and the question of who is she. Um, I mean, setting up Ray was awesome to watch, and just the question of who she was, who she is, um, should have been handled better, in my opinion. But like I said, um middle A for Force Awakens. So yeah, leaves me with two left. So Revenge of the Sith. Bottom of S tier. Very, very bottom of S tier. It's my fourth favorite Star Wars film. It's the best. It's the best sequel or best prequel rather, and George Lucas's magnum opus. It's, I mean, he put everything out on that film. Watching Anakin from the start of the film being a be he's that Jedi Knight that Obi-Wan describes to Luke in episode 4. That's the version of Anakin that we see at the start of Revenge. We see the cunning warrior, we see the great friend, we see the pilot, and just his kind of just like how Luke does in Empire, Anakin does in Revenge, where his goodwill and his willingness to do anything for his friends is what is his downfall. All he wants to do is protect his wife. All he wants to do is save his wife, and Palpatine manipulates that because the Jedi already don't trust him. And by getting Obi-Wan off planet, that leaves him wide open for Palpatine to get after him, and he does it. I mean, the fall of the Jedi is probably one of my favorite parts of that movie. When they try to go arrest Palpatine, and that fight is between him and Mace is beautiful. The only thing that I wish is that we would have seen a Anakin versus Mace fight. I wish that would have happened because I think that would have been really cool to see. And then Order 66. I mean, probably the one piece of prequel material we've got the most coverage of out of the last 15 years. Um, the Fives conspiracy arc in Clone Wars really, that's what started it with the inhibitor chips. Then we saw Order 66 in Fallen Order. We saw Order 66 in season 7 of Clone Wars. We've seen Order 66 in Obi-Wan in flashbacks in Mandalorian. It just, I want more of that. I want to see more of Order 66. I want that done to death. I want to see the far reaches of that. Like how many Jedi actually survived? Because I think there's still more than the handful that we know of. And then, I mean, the Battle of the Heroes. What else can what else can I say about that that hasn't already been said? In my opinion, that's the best overall fight in Star Wars. Seeing Anakin and Obi-Wan fight each other is, I mean, I don't know what else I can say that hasn't already been said from other YouTubers. I really think, I mean, it's, I can put that fight on every day, and just and the Shakespearean fall that we see from Anakin. I mean, one of my favorite parts of that film is the dialogue between him and Anakin right before they fight. It's, to me, it's some of the best writing in Star Wars, and Revenge to me plays out like a myth, plays out like a campfire story, and that's why I think it's the bottom of S tier. It's, I mean, it's like I said, it's George's love letter to the fans. It's everything that he ever wanted in a film. So there's that, and now we have one more left. Disney's best project so far, Rogue One. I remember when this movie was coming out, and I was really interested because I remember they were doing the movie was they're gonna make a movie about how the rebels got the Death Star planned, and I remember thinking, okay, so we're gonna see Kyle, we're gonna see Kyle Katarn, because in Dark Forces, the first level of that game is literally you going to get the Death Star plans. So I was thinking, oh, we're gonna see Kyle, but that's not what we saw, and I'm okay with that because of the movie that we got. Um, Rogue One is Disney's best Star Wars project to date, or at least on film. I would say is their best was their best Star Wars project to date. And with that, I'm gonna say it's at the very. I'm gonna say it's at the top of A tier, just right underneath S tier. Um, it. I mean, from how it's shot to the story elements, we see. I mean, we see the rebels come together in this film and finally see how the Rebel Alliance is actually formed. And even though at the time I wasn't a big Rebels fan because I hadn't watched Rebels yet, but I do remember hearing General Syndulla and seeing Chopper, uh, and I knew who those characters were. Just wasn't I hadn't watched it yet. And I mean, just the what they do to get the plans. Krennic getting to see Tarkin again, and just how this is one of the only times in the films that we get to see the Empire be the Empire. They were just deadly in this film, and they really felt like a force in this film. And I mean, the hallway scene with Vader. That's a top 5 scene for me in Star Wars. Just we get to see Vader at the peak of his powers. Just I mean, cutting through people, going to get the plans, and they barely get the plans to Leia before they jump to hyperspace. And just it's good. It's great. And well, that's my tier list, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Just if you think I'm wrong, let me know. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it. I'm open for it. So let's talk. So yeah, that's my tier list. And well, till next time, guys. May the force be with you.